The DuraMAX Texas Grand Prix was on this weekend in the NASCAR Cup Series around the Circuit of the Americas in Austin. But who went to victory lane on the first road course of the 2026 season? Well, I've got everything that you need to know about that and all the other major talking points here on our NASCAR Cup Series review on the Motorsport Report. Let's have a look, guys. Let's have a look at all the main action here at COTA. So Tyler Reddick, of course, went into this weekend knowing that he could achieve history. No driver in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series, going all the way back to its formation in 1948, has won the opening 3 rounds of the season in a row. Of course, he won the season opening Daytona 500. Then he also went to Atlanta, Georgia, and backed it up with another victory last weekend. But what happened this weekend? Well, he got off to the perfect start in a sense before the race actually got going. He, of course, achieved pole position on Saturday, but he wasn't able to hold that lead going around the first lap of this race. Chase Briscoe, who started alongside him on the front row, got it, and despite a good fight back from the 45 car in the back parts of the circuit, he wasn't able to retake the lead. And honestly, after that point, Reddick kind of faded away really. He dropped down to about 8th or so position and was one of the many drivers to stop before the final few laps of this first stage. Of course, the pit lane closed with 2 laps remaining in this one. Ryan Blaney took the lead before the end of the first stage. However, he, Briscoe and Reddick pitted before the end of this stage, which meant that Ross Chastain won stage 1. Second thing we learned is that it's very tricky going through that first corner in COTA. It's of course completely blind as the apex heading into it. You are braking uphill and it's very wide as well, but it tightens on the exit, which very much encourages people to sling their car down the inside and try and make a few overtakes. It's the main overtaking point on the entire circuit. And unfortunately, it was one of the most inexperienced drivers in the field, 19-year-old Connor Zilic, who fell foul of this. He spun and somehow didn't collect anybody. Of course, he was very much red-faced, his tyres were very much flat-spotted, and he needs to go into the pits to go for those repairs. But somehow, no real damage on his car other than his tyres. And no caution flag either, he just got up going again. Blaney was again in the lead late on in the second stage, but he pitted for fresh rubber, and it was Ty Gibbs who took the stage win in stage 2, his first ever around a road course. Third thing we learned is that Reddick was back at the front after all that shuckout. He was leading in the opening stages of the third and final stage around COTA. Briscoe had an opportunity to win, but unfortunately for him, he had some kind of transmission issue. I think he was saying that only one of his 4 wheels was driving, when it should of course just be 2 of them. So that was causing problems and he was out of the contest as a result. There really wasn't that many cautions, but we got a few late on. The main one, of course, being for Chastain, who ended up losing his wheel. He managed to get through to the pits, but the fact that there was a loose wheel on the track meant there was a full course caution, and that meant that most people ended up pitting. The strategy at this point was really fascinating. But after all that, Reddick ended up leading at the restart. There was a pretty big pile-up as well heading into turn 1, but again, Reddick just kept cool. He kept going. And like I said, if he won this race, he'd be able to make NASCAR history. He couldn't do it, could he? Well, he didn't have it all entirely his own way, or at least it seemed like it at certain points. With just a few laps to go, Shane Van Gisbergen, who of course he won a bunch of road course races last year in the Cup Series, he was pretty close, but he ended up fading away as his tyres presumably ran out of grip. We also had a spin out of nowhere. Carson Hocevar spinning on the main straight just completely by himself, but he ended up recovering it and no caution flag as a result, and that meant that Reddick was comfortable. He dominated this race. He absolutely deserved it. Michael Jordan, I know he's a busy man, but he needs to keep coming to these races if Reddick is going to keep winning. An absolute good luck charm. That cannot be denied. Yeah, incredible stuff, guys. Like I said, nobody has managed to do this before in the history of NASCAR. Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Sr., Richard Petty, none of them have ever achieved this before. Unbelievable stuff. But guys, let me know your thoughts about this weekend's race around COTA. Give it a rating out of 10 in the comments. Yay or nay? I want to hear what you have to say, as always, on this one. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this, though, guys. And of course, we'll be back with plenty more NASCAR news in the meantime. Looking forward to Phoenix next weekend.